Here we are again, getting ready to change our clocks this weekend. The US government keeps teasing us and talking about ending daylight savings time, but so far, nothing has changed. So parents, get ready. We are springing forward this weekend. Now, typically, this time change isn't as disruptive on our kids' sleep as the fall time change, but there's still some really easy things that you can do to prevent your kids' sleep from totally falling apart. Now, personally, I always like the spring time change because it means that the days are getting longer, the sun's going to stay out later, this gloomy New England weather is going to move out, summer will eventually get here, but it can also be really disruptive to our kids' sleep schedule, so it can be stressful. But there's some easy things we can do to prep ahead of time to make sure that doesn't happen. So here's what's going to go down. Overnight, this Saturday, March 8th, most of the US, except for a couple lucky states, are going to spring forward, which means we're going to actually lose an hour of sleep. So overnight on Saturday night, so it's officially at 2 a.m. Sunday morning, March 9th, 2 a.m. is going to magically become 3 a.m. and poof, there goes that hour of sleep. So we prepare our kids for this time change by doing what I call hopping back bedtime. Excuse all the spring references, but pun intended, spring is coming. So we're going to hop back bedtime. So we're going to use a gradual adjustment strategy, very similar if you followed my fall gradual adjustment strategy for the fall time change, but this time we're doing it in the opposite direction because we're going to be losing an hour of sleep. So we're actually going to be moving our sleep time earlier in advance of the time change. For kids really up to age 5, I recommend starting this about 3 days before the time change happens. So what you're going to do is you're going to move bedtime and nap time 20 minutes earlier, starting 3 days before the time change. Let me give you an example. Let's say that bedtime for your 3-year-old is 7 p.m. What you're going to do is you're going to start 3 days before the time change, which is going to be on Thursday, March 6th, and you're going to move bedtime 20 minutes earlier. So you're going to move it from 7 p.m. to 6:40. Then the next night, which is going to be Friday, March 7th, you're going to move it 20 minutes earlier again. So now you're at 6:20. And then Saturday, March 8th, you're going to move it 20 minutes again. So now bedtime is at 6 p.m. Then on Sunday, after the clock has sprung forward, when the clock says 7 p.m., it's actually going to feel like 6 p.m. the night before in your kiddo's body. And that is the time you've adjusted them to. So on Sunday, you go back to 7 p.m. bedtime. You go back to using the clock because you've done the gradual adjustment strategy to kind of reset their internal clock so that bedtime still works for them. Now, if your kiddo is over 5 years old, you can kind of split the difference and move their clock in bigger chunks. So on Friday, you could move bedtime to 6:30, and then on Saturday, you'd move bedtime to 6. You can kind of use bigger chunks as kids get older. Let's say even it's Saturday and you've forgotten that the time change is happening. I would still recommend splitting the difference. So put your kid to bed 30 minutes early if you're just starting this and it's Saturday night, just because even splitting the difference a little bit will help to kind of readjust their internal clock. Because what you want to avoid is on Sunday night, your kiddo staying up super late, because then eventually if they stay up too late, they're going to get overtired, and overtiredness is the number one cause of most of our kids' sleep challenges. So we really want to avoid that. Couple things to note. The first is if your kid's still napping, make sure that you're moving nap time earlier too at the same cadence that you're moving bedtime. So you're really adjusting their whole daily sleep schedule. The second thing to remember is that eventually it is going to start to get lighter earlier in the evening. So make sure that your kiddo's room has blackout curtains, because you will get to the point eventually where you're putting your kid to bed and the sun is still up. So those blackout curtains are really going to be helpful. Also, I want you to be realistic. So the younger the child, like if you have a baby who's taking 3 naps a day, the time change is going to affect younger kids so much more than it will older kids, just because they're sleeping so much more and they're just more sensitive to their sleep needs. So just be realistic and be patient. It does take all of our bodies a little bit of time to adjust to the new light schedule and get our circadian rhythms in line. Now, once kids have good, well-established sleep habits where they can fall asleep alone and they're used to sleeping their 10 to 12 hours through the night, when they have good sleep habits like that, things like the time change don't tend to affect them too much because they've built up almost almost like a sleep muscle memory where their body knows how to get the sleep that it needs. They're used to that. Their body doesn't fight sleep as much. So we see kids with good sleep habits kind of breeze through these time changes without too much trouble. So if you need help getting these good sleep habits established in your kiddo, I would love to help you. I've got great resources here on YouTube like this video.